He's a 78-year-old, lifelong predator, fraudster, and cheat, known for inciting violent mobs. She's lived the American dream while he's been America's nightmare. America, looking at the two choices before you, who would you hire? Donald Trump or Kamala Harris?
Hold on to your seats because Jasmine Crockett just delivered a blow to Trump's ego on live TV, and his reaction is already destined for the history books. In a moment that left even his staunchest supporters scrambling for explanations, Crockett came armed with receipts, called out the absurdity, and left Trump floundering like a fish out of water. His all-caps rants? Legendary. His desperate attempts to spin the narrative? Painfully weak. What exactly did she reveal that sent him into a tailspin? Trust me, you won't want to miss this epic takedown.
The fact that we have Americans that are waking up and saying, wait a minute, are you saying that tariffs are going to negatively impact me? Are you saying that we're going to have to pay for this? It's kind of like that wall that we're still waiting on Mexico to build, right? That they're going to pay for it. No, we're going to pay for it. We're going to be the ones that are suffering. And for those that thought that inflation was bad, even though it has come down, even though that it is honestly, cooled off here a lot quicker than it cooled off in the rest of the world, let me just tell you, it's time to buckle up, Buttercup, because it is about to be on and popping if, for some reason, he gets half of
what I continue to see is that Trump seems to only care about his money. Democrats on this committee publicly released financial documents detailing how Trump received over $5.5 million from the Chinese government. Not only that, these records also showed how President Trump and his White House senior advisor daughter Ivanka received hundreds of trademarks by the PRC.
Before we dive in, make sure to smash that like button and hit subscribe, because trust me, you do not want to miss this. The moment Jasmine Crockett dropped the truth bomb that sent Trump into a full-blown meltdown, you could practically hear the sound of a Diet Coke can being crushed in rage. The man spiraled so fast, it was like someone just told him his tanning spray had been discontinued. His reaction? Pure, unfiltered Trump, a chaotic mix of self-victimization, over-the-top outrage, and that desperate attempt to act like he's still in charge of something. Anything other than his Mar-a-Lago lunch order. Buckle up, because this is as wild as it gets.
So let me tell you something, Mr. Trump. You gonna learn a few lessons from us. And I'll be the first one. You your little friend off of Twitter. Y'all about to find out.
Imagine this. Crockett barely finishes her statement, and before her words even have a chance to fully land, Trump is already grabbing his phone. His fingers are hammering away at the keyboard like an unsupervised toddler let loose on a calculator. His response? Exactly what you'd expect. Loud, incoherent, and so packed with projection, it could be screened at a drive-in movie theater. Classic Trump in all his unhinged glory.
Putin, right? He's trying to turn us into Russia. What news for him? The people not go.
He instantly shifts into full-blown panic mode, cycling through his greatest hits like a broken record. The deep state is out to get him. The media is rigged. Everyone's being asterisked, so unfair asterisk. And of course, his personal favorite. He's the real asterisk victim here. Because in Trump's world, nothing screams persecution like being mildly called out for your own words and actions. It's the same old song and dance, but somehow it never gets less absurd.
But I'm sorry, when you're at war, you're not worried about your outfit. That is what we call a privilege, number one. Number two, to say, oh, what can you afford? Well, if he was walking around in the fanciest suits, I'm sure that they would accuse him of taking our dollars and spending it on his wardrobe and being more concerned about that. Listen, this is a no-win situation when you're walking in with someone who has decided that he is going to align himself with a dictating thug.
The funniest part, Crockett didn't even seem fazed. She probably delivered her statement, logged off, and went about her day like a normal person. Meanwhile, Trump was still holed up in his golden cave playing around ranting about how unfair life is, like some washed-up reality star who refuses to accept that the cameras stopped rolling years ago.
Republicans is kind of like Trump is not decided that she's going to be holding to all these people that think all the little money they have changed campaign. They went out and decided to vote for him because they don't believe in him. They don't believe the lies that he told when he said it on day one. He started for when he said it on day one that he was going to reduce the price of food. That when he said it on day one that he was going to look a big, beautiful America, right? Like they believe that. And so, you know, as much as I'm for social media and that kind of stuff with, you know, radical madness, he's not saying much of this country that he's just mad, right? Like I refuse to believe that the vast majority of the country is right now.
And let's be honest, this meltdown wasn't really about what was said. It was about Asterisk who Asterisk said it. Trump can usually brush off criticism from his usual foes because he's already written them off as part of some grand conspiracy. But Jasmine Crockett, a sharp, confident black woman calling him out on live television, oh, that was a bridge too far for his fragile ego. Nothing rattles him faster than a woman who refuses to cower to his tough guy act. He expects people to backtrack, soften their tone, or tiptoe around his feelings to avoid setting off one of his infamous tantrums. But Crockett? She walked in, said exactly what needed to be said, and kept it moving. Meanwhile, Trump was left fuming in his own pettiness, desperately trying to convince his shrinking fan base that he's still somehow in control. Spoiler, he's not.
That even some Democrats were like, oh, well, he's just going to do what he did last time. And he's not. World leaders are recognizing that he's not the same. I mean, he's 10 times worse. And imagine that. This is the guy that oversaw how many deaths during COVID, right? And now we had Ebola breakout. Now we've got measles breakout. Bird flu, because they were some of the other people that got fired. Yeah, no. And he's like, oh, well, wait a minute. Like, this is just literally not even partisanship, in my opinion, at this point. This is incompetence. And I think that, no, seriously, it's incompetence.
His response wasn't just predictable, it was downright embarrassing. At this point, his reactions are about as surprising as a bad wig at a press conference. He follows the same tired cycle every single time. First, deny reality. Then hurl some personal attacks. Follow it up with an all-caps rant so unhinged it makes Kami's Twitter look downright composed. And finally, spend the next few days pretending like he wasn't bothered in the first place. The problem? Nobody's buying it anymore. This isn't 2016, when his tantrums dominated headlines like a bad season of Asterisk, The Apprentice Asterisk. Back then, the media scrambled to decode his every tweet, treating each typo like it was a cryptic message from some political oracle. But now it's just sad. The magic is gone, the chaos feels stale, and his all-caps rants hit with the same impact as an expired coupon. The act is tired, and so is everyone watching it.
Or racism. Because essentially what you're saying is that black people, we know y'all know all about going to jail. To be clear, this guy has 34 felonies. I've never been arrested for a traffic ticket. I do want to be clear that there are black folk that haven't actually experienced jail. I have been in jail, obviously, as a former criminal defense attorney. But I do want to be clear that, as Kendrick Lamar says, they are not like us. He is not like us. So for my clients, I've never had one that had this many charges pending against them, but I've never had anybody come close to him and somehow still be walking free pre-trial. That's not how we get treated when we end up getting locked up.
And the best part? Trump Asterisk knows Asterisk it. That's why he's trying so hard. Every time someone calls him out, he acts like it's a personal attack on his entire existence. He can shrug off actual crimes, blatant corruption, and even insurrections, but the moment a woman with a microphone says something critical, it's Diefsion one in his brain. Meanwhile, Jasmine Crockett is probably somewhere enjoying her day, completely unbothered, because unlike Trump, she actually has a job to do. And no, it doesn't involve rage tweeting from a golf course. She didn't even have to try that hard. That's the real tragedy for Trump. This wasn't some coordinated takedown or a carefully planned attack. It was just one person speaking the truth, and that alone was enough to send him spiraling. The truth really does hurt, doesn't it?
Unfortunately, we have someone that is occupying the White House, and as far as I'm concerned, he is an enemy to the United States. He swore an oath just like the rest of us. But right now, when you are literally putting us at risk, all because of what? Because you want to convince your followers that you should be a dictator too, that you should never leave the White House because you don't believe that elections should take place? I don't really understand what is going on, and I don't know what it's going to take to get people to wake.
Imagine being that asterisk fragile. Imagine spending your entire life trying to project strength and power, only to be completely unraveled by a single statement on live television. That's Trump's reality now. He isn't feared, he isn't respected, and the only people still pretending to care are the ones waiting for their next paycheck from his failing campaign. At this point, his meltdowns are less about politics and more like performance art. It's almost impressive how predictable he's become. You could set your watch to it. Someone calls him out, he loses his mind, his followers scramble to defend him, and then a week later, he acts like it never happened. Rinse and repeat, like a cheap soap opera with bad writing and even worse acting. The only difference, the ratings are tanking and the audience has moved on.
Actually really was surprised. But I'm thankful because I know how amazing of a person our vice president is, not just when it comes to being a politician, but she's just a good person. And so it could not happen to anyone better than the vice president. I think that there had been this idea that Democrats had just kind of checked out. It wasn't so much that. I think that they just were looking for that fire to be lit. And as someone who is known as being a fighter, I think that they love that she is pushing back, and she's pushing back hard. Because for so long, people kept trying to say the Democrats were weak. But right now, the only person that looks weak.
But the biggest joke in all of this? Trump still thinks he's the main character. He genuinely believes his outrage matters, that his complaints are still shaking the world. In reality, he's just another washed-up celebrity screaming into the void, desperately hoping someone still cares. The truth is, the only reason anyone even notices these meltdowns anymore is because they're good for a laugh, pure entertainment. And let's not forget the irony of it all. This is a man who built his entire brand on owning the libs, on being tough, on never backing down. But the second someone claps back, suddenly he's the most fragile man on the planet. He's like that guy at the bar who talks the biggest game but immediately calls for security the moment someone stands up to him. Jasmine Crockett didn't just expose him, she confirmed what we've all known for years. Trump isn't strong. He isn't tough. He's just asterisk loud. Asterisk and loud doesn't mean powerful. It just means annoying. The more he rants, the clearer it becomes. The only thing he's fighting for now is attention, and even that's starting to fade.
Only way that they can win is when they divide us. It's important that we stay united. That is who we are supposed to be. We are in the United States. And so we do have a divider-in-chief that is currently running to be the president of the United States. But we need somebody that's going to look out for you even if you didn't vote for her. Right. We need somebody that's going to look out for you because she understands what it is to grow up in a middle-class family and not be given $400 million when you was born. There's this perception that he's this great business guy. Listen, we look like we great business people. And drop off a bit.
Come on. Right.
Look it, right? But the reality is that they say, listen, this dude cannot operate a business in the state of New York because he's nothing but a fraud. Listen, if it's what black people are supposed to be able to do, it's a fake and a fraud. And let me tell you, the orange one is a fake and a fraud. So let's get with a real
And the best way to deal with him? Let him keep screaming into the void. Because at the end of the day, his biggest fear isn't losing elections, lawsuits, or even his precious golden toilet. It's being ignored. And the worst part for him? That's already happening. Trump has never been subtle about who he thinks should be in charge, and let's just say it's not exactly a diverse lineup. The man talks about competence, the way a 1950s country club did, as a code word for keeping things as white and male as possible. If it were up to him, America would look like a poorly cast reboot of asterisk Mad Men asterisk, minus the charisma and with twice the lawsuits. Every time a black leader, politician, or expert steps up, Trump's immediate reaction is to dismiss them like they just walked into his golf club without a membership. He doesn't just ignore black leadership, he actively tries to undermine it. Remember how he treated Barack Obama, the first black president in American history, a two-term Ivy League graduate with sky-high approval ratings, and Trump spent years foaming at the mouth, trying to convince people Obama wasn't even American. Because in Trump's world, Competence isn't about education, experience, or leadership. It's about looking like you stepped out of asterisk, leave it to Beaver asterisk episode. The irony is, the more he tries to tear down those who don't fit his narrow vision of power, the more he exposes his own insecurities. And the more people like Jasmine Crockett rise above his nonsense, the clearer it becomes. Trump's era is over. The future doesn't look like him, and thank goodness for that.
You know, the lack of cohesiveness on that side is why this has been the most unproductive Congress. People all over X and everything is like, well, they don't deserve anything. They're so unproductive. Let me tell you, the people that y'all keep putting in charge are the reason that we are unproductive, because they don't understand how to govern. And honestly, they don't even have a will to govern. And the fact that they are allowing somebody who basically is a shadow president to come out and tell them what to do, including Donald Trump, because listen, we know that Elon, as they have touted about how they need to get rid of the immigrants. Let me be clear. Elon cannot become president of the United States because he is an immigrant who has gained U.S. citizenship later on in life. So he's not qualified to be, or he's not allowed to be under our Constitution. So instead, he decided that he was going to buy a president. And right now, he is pulling all the strings on.
Trump's obsession with keeping power in the hands of what he considers competent white men isn't just about Obama. It's a pattern. Every time a black official challenges him, his reaction isn't about debate or policy, it's sheer panic. Take Kamala Harris, for example. The second she became vice president, Trump was quick to label her not ready and a disaster. Meanwhile, he endorsed Ron DeSantis, the human embodiment of forehead vein, like he was the second coming of Reagan. The double standard couldn't be more glaring. Then there's Ketanji Brown Jackson, a Supreme Court justice with years of judicial experience, impeccable credentials, and a resume that speaks for itself. And what was Trump's take? Crickets. Or worse, his supporters dismissing her as an affirmative action hire, as if she hadn't spent her career outshining the kinds of judges Trump actually nominated. Guys whose biggest legal qualification was probably binge-watching asterisk law and order asterisk reruns. It's not just about race. It's about control. Trump can't stand the idea of power being wielded by anyone who doesn't fit his narrow, outdated vision of what leadership should look like. But here's the thing. The world is moving forward, and Trump's desperate attempts to drag it backward only highlight how irrelevant he's becoming. The more he panics, the more he proves that his time is up.
This is very simple. We right now have a white supremacist that is sitting in the White House. He is backed up by other white supremacists. And if you really want to know who the criminals are in this country, you can Google it. You don't have to trust me. But the people that commit 80% of the most violent crimes in this country are white supremacists. Yet for whatever reason, they sit and they serve at the pleasure of the president. They are the ones that were there on January 6th. Tearing our democracy down physically, and now we have them tearing us down.
Exactly.
Right.
When Trump asterisk does asterisk support black candidates, it's never about their qualifications. It's about using them as props. Take Herschel Walker, for example. Trump loved him. Why? Because Walker wasn't a threat. He wasn't a brilliant legal mind, a policy expert, or a seasoned politician. He was a former football player who struggled to string a coherent sentence together, but was willing to parrot whatever Trump wanted. That's the only kind of black leadership Trump can tolerate, the kind that doesn't actually lead. Trump's talk about competence isn't just laughable, it's dangerous. When he was in office, he surrounded himself with yes men, the kind of people whose resumes were better suited for running a failed state business than running a country. And yet, every time a highly qualified black official stepped up, he questioned their intelligence, their legitimacy, even their right to be there. The truth is, Trump doesn't want competence, he wants control. And if that means throwing a tantrum every time a black leader proves him wrong, well, let's just say we've seen this meltdown before. It's predictable, it's pathetic, and it's getting old. The more he lashes out, the more he reveals his own insecurities and the hollowness of his so-called leadership. The world is moving forward, and Trump's stuck in the past, screaming into the void.
Trying to change the reality of who invaded who after we kept saying that Trump was nothing but Putin's puppet. We kept saying that he was palling around with Putin. We've said it all kinds of ways. But this comes at the heels of the UN voting with Russia. This also then is an opportunity for Trump to show that no, America knows who our friends are and we're going to stand with those friends. And unfortunately, he decided that he wanted to talk about his clothes. Now, maybe this is because Trump never wanted to go serve his country. And right now, the only service that he's giving to us is driving our country.
Trump treated the presidency the way a bored, rich kid treats a summer job, like something to half pay attention to while focusing on personal side hustles. The man wasn't interested in governing. He was interested in branding. He saw the White House not as the seat of democracy, but as the ultimate reality show set where he got to play president without reading the script. Every decision he made felt like it was based on a gut feeling he had while watching Fox News. In his bathroom, actual policy boring. Intelligence briefings, he treated them like spam emails, skimmed at best, ignored. At worst, the country would be on fire, and Trump's priority would be tweeting about his crowd sizes. America wasn't getting a president, it was getting a full-time online troll who occasionally signed executive orders when someone put them in front of him.